Hi everyone, I hope you had an amazing summer at your various internships abroad. Today is this is my presentation for the experiential learning class and my personal experience during my. So just a quick overview of the agenda today. I'll be going over the key takeaways from our online course, an internship analysis, and then analysis outside of the internship, so my interests, my self-discovery through culture, and then finally reevaluating how I see myself as a leader and how I see leadership in general. So this is pretty self-explanatory, I guess. I was just talking with one of my friends who's also doing an internship abroad and just, discussing adulthood and fun things like that. Okay, so some key takeaways from the online course experiential learning is that leadership is definitely a skill. I did not realize how much research and literature was devoted to analyzing what makes a good leader. It is definitely not something that you can make up as you go along. Has to be acquired through, experience, making mistakes and learning from them, observation. And I think studies like the book from Bowman and Deal really, embody a way to learn how to be a leader. It's not necessarily you'll pick up right away, but it does take time. And next, leadership takes flexibility. You don't necessarily, as a leader, you don't necessarily have to incorporate all four frames equally, but it does take perspective of all four frames. And organizations that refuse change or only lead under one specific framework often have a hard time dealing with change or dealing with environmental differences because they are so stuck in that one mindset. So it definitely takes flexibility. Other key takeaways is that a good manager is in touch with the needs of their employees. So it's really important to apply the human resource frame and make sure your employees have their needs being met. And if the staff is happy, I feel like the whole company will benefit and productivity and creativity will increase. And then fourth, a really important point, I think, is creating a vision. And all the effective leaders that I have ever been in contact with, whether it's, a president or a teacher or a coach, they all were able to create a very coherent vision or image of what they wanted to achieve and how they're going to do it. And I think without that, your company will have a very hard time unifying and moving forward. So into my internship, so I worked at the Applied Science and Technology Research Institute called ASTRI at Hong Kong, and it is a very large company. It is a government-funded research company, but they also take investment for their research projects from private clientele. And what they do is they just conduct research, basically what their name is, on science and technology measurements, cybersecurity, finance, more environmental friendly technology, etc. This was in Hong Kong, and I was, as an intern in the computer security analytics division, I used machine learning to create a voice emulator. So some lessons I learned professionally from the internship is that expectations are definitely contextual. I think a lot of my other interns who worked in the finance district had higher expectations of professionalism, so they had to dress more formally and be on time. But I think ASTRI definitely created a more casual culture and did not necessarily enforce promptness. And I think this was definitely a management strategy from the symbolic frame to create this laid-back, relaxed culture. And I think this varies from company to company. So I talked about this on the last slide, but I think this laid-back culture plus a lot of symbols appealing to our morality created a productive working environment. I think management used a lot of the symbolic frame in creating symbols such as all our patents and They applied McGregor's Theory Y, which aligns the needs of the organization with the needs of the staff. And this definitely fostered a nurturing environment, really boosted creativity, and by aligning the employees' needs with the needs of the organization, I think they were better. Austria was able to better focus on the quality of work as opposed to worrying about rules or regulation. And finally, possibly a negative effect of, or a negative aspect of Astri is that it is a large company, so they have a multi-level structure, and I think this creates a lot of divisions, both in between subdivisions, so horizontally, and in between what Mitzberg would call the strategic apex and middle line and operating core. There wasn't a lot of contact, so it was kind of isolated, and I think this made leadership come off as very distant and mysterious because we never really knew what was going on behind the scenes. From an institutional analysis, they really applied the symbolic frame. So, like I mentioned earlier, using a lot of their patents as a symbol of our success, the vocabulary of Astrians to unite us and create this culture. And they also applied the human resource frame, which I mentioned, which is appealing to Theory Y and also Maslow's hierarchy of needs to make sure that their staff is treated well. And I wasn't really able to see the political frame because I was in the operating core and I was kind of distant from the rest of management. So next I will move on to some discoveries that I had outside of the internship. So I was able to develop a lot of technical and professional skills. You can listen here to this example of this voice synthesis that I produced during my internship later. But that was really effective, I think. And I also learned that I enjoyed research, but I think I would prefer to work on a team because I was given a solo project and I enjoy human interaction and working with people. So I think I would prefer a group project in research. Applying frames, I definitely have a preference for the structural frame. As my leadership worksheet demonstrated, I like facts and analysis, and that helped in research, but I also need to learn how to use the human resource frame to forsake results sometimes for coworker interaction, and helping out my fellow intern instead of wanting to get results on my own project. So I think that's definitely something I can improve on.
The Commission recommends that prompt and favorable consideration be given to this request.
So that was an example of the voice synthesis that. So through culture, I learned that the internship pace is much more concentrated. So you definitely work hard a lot during the day, but you have a lot of time after work and on the weekends to kind of relax. And I really learned this summer that it's not necessary to be efficient at all times of the day, which is something that I really struggle with and have a hard time relaxing. So I think the internship was good in that way. Hong Kong is very fast-paced and energetic, and it can be overwhelming at times, but I think both through living in the city and through the internship, I was able to kind of learn how to not always absorb the energy that I'm around or the negative parts of the energy that I'm around, and to kind of go with the flow a little bit more. Finally, a cultural aspect of Hong Kong is that being rational and saving face, which is basically having a respectful reputation for your family, are big values in Hong Kong. And I thought that was really interesting because I tend to be a more rational person, but this really enforced my rationality and made me a lot less impulsive than when I was in America. So reevaluating leadership, I had a lot of discrepancy between what I want to be as a leader, so which is more human resource oriented, and then my Myers-Briggs results, which was ENFJ, a diplomat, so definitely more on the political side of things, and then also the results of my leadership worksheet and what I think I see myself doing in practice, which is being more structural, on the structural framework mindset, focusing on facts and figures and tangible results. And I think I need to learn somehow how to incorporate all of these together. So the online course I think was really helpful in making me reevaluate as a leader or even as a coworker, like what are my priorities? And I think my pull towards, tangible results and getting things done points to a definite structural and political frame, but I need to learn how to synthesize this better with the more inspiring and social interaction aspect of the HR and symbolic frame that I really want to emulate, I think, deep down. And I think that finding a balance between all these frames requires a lot of open-mindedness, definitely humility, and willingness to go out of your comfort zone and try different things. So I'm going to wrap up because I'm a bit over time, but I hope you enjoyed this presentation, and let me know if you have any questions or comments, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. Thanks.